It's a story you really never want to hear about, right? In the early hours of a Saturday morning in Atteridgeville, a hostile tavern was turned into a killing ground. Just after 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 gunmen walked into the establishment, opened fire randomly on patrons, and moved into the back rooms. And inside one of those, 3 children, aged 12, 3, and 16, were asleep. The shooters pointed guns directly at them and left all 3 of them dead. In total, 25 people were shot, 12 died, 13 are fighting for their lives at Kalafong Hospital. The tavern owner survived her gunshot wounds, but her children did not. And it's understood this wasn't the first attack on this illegal shebeen, the last being just a mere 3 months ago. We also understand that police say they've shut down nearly 12,000 unlicensed outlets between April and September this year. But what do those closures mean if nothing changes? Firstly, let's speak to Hannes Coetzee, who is from the city of Tshwane, the MMC there for community safety, who was in Saulsville yesterday. Hannes, a very good morning to you and thank you for your time.
Good morning, Bongani, and all your listeners. It's an honor to be on your station.
Just give us a sense, Hannes, of what you saw inside that establishment. What struck you the most?
Bongani, I was on my way to Ekurhuleni, and around about 9:30, I received a phone call of the shooting that has taken place, and I immediately had to turn around and go to Saulsville. When I got there, the police had already cordoned off the whole place, the forensics, the pathology, everybody was there. There were certain areas where we were not allowed to go in due to the investigation that is taking place because it has become a crime scene. But from the city of Tshwane side, we condemn any kind of violence, doesn't matter what it is, not just specifically because it's the 16 days of activism. We take 365 days very, very serious
Sure.
with any kind of shooting. So we condemn any kind of violence within the community.
Hannes, that stands to reason. Hold on. Just give me a sense of what you saw in the tavern. Describe for our listeners who may not have seen any footage of it, what the place looks like. Because as I understand, it wasn't just a drinking establishment, but it also doubled as a family home. Just give us a description of that.
Basically, if you look at the building from outside, it's a very old building. Still some of those with the old roofs that you're not allowed to have on. It's a very old establishment. On the inside, the moment that we got time to go into a certain point, there's long grass and everything inside. So it's not that this place was really cleaned up on the inside. And I think this is one of the things because it's a very easy hiding place. It's a hostel built in like a square form. And if you get trapped inside, it's not really, there's no gate where you are controlled, where it's just the specific owners that can enter the place. So anybody can come in there. And this is one of those random shootings that we condemn completely. So if you look at the place from outside, it looks good. But from the inside, I don't think it's a habitable place to stay.
Police say they've shut down 101 taverns in the area, in Atteridgeville specifically, over the last 7 months. But one suspects that they reopen almost as quickly as they're shut down.
This is one of the problems because what we have done, even in the CBD, we started a thing which we call IBEC. This is a interdepartmental by law enforcement committee where we signed a document with the National Police Commissioner as well as Provincial Commissioner to basically to bring more forces together, because if you just run around and close down and tomorrow they reopen again because they go to court, they get arrested, and then they pay a fine and then 2 days later they're out in the field again. This is why we have put this by law enforcement committee together to have much more law enforcers on the ground. We brought SARS and Home Affairs, everybody else on board. And it is a continuation of a fight that we're having to look at the authenticity of the liquor licenses, and it is a challenge. We've even decided that maybe the liquor board can assist the city of Tshwane by taking 10 of our members and train them so that when we go out and the SAPS is not available, we can still identify that this document is a real, true document. But Even the president, when there was a shutdown in the country, we have given people an opportunity to register the spazas. And if you'll be shocked if you see that in Gauteng, only around about 5,000 was registered.
Look, isn't there, though, some truth to what many residents point to, which is corruption? So officers turning a blind eye, demanding protection fees. Everybody knows where these places are. Otherwise, what's the point? Who'd be buying? The police certainly know where they are, and yet they continue to thrive.
What we're doing in the city of Tshwane since we took over government in October last year, Bongani, we made sure that we have a zero tolerance when it comes to corruption. I must say, in all honesty, even in the TMPD, we started cleaning up house. We've got about 146 cases where people are charged, where consequence management will be taken. We started with a security cluster where even on the top management, we go through a security and vetting cleaning process. We're even doing lifestyle audits to make sure that the house is clean. I think in the past, there was no proper bylaw enforcement done. And the more you go, even if you look at those cases that we had to close those brothels in the CBD of Tshwane, you find horrific stuff when you go into the building. From outside, it just looks like a normal shop, but the moment you go inside, you get all these trap doors. Once you go through the trap door, you get a building with about 60 rooms. Foreigners are using the ladies, which I am totally against, for prostitution. Right. You know, we get all this kind of stuff, and it's actually horrific if you see. And this is my concern, that it never happened in the past, but that's why I say we have zero tolerance when it comes to this, and we are taking hands with all stakeholders, CPF structures, SARS, Home Affairs, everybody that comes on board to try and curb this problem.
Hannes, thank you so much for your time. The City of Tshwane's MMC for community safety. Yes, they're doing what they can, but is it enough? Listening to all of that is Nomcebo Dlamini, who is from the Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance. And Nomcebo is the SAAPA-SA campaign director and joins us now on the line. Nomcebo, thank you for your time this morning. Welcome to our program, firstly.
Thank you very much, Bongani. And we just want to first extend our deepest condolences to the families who have lost loved ones, especially the children that have just now been caught in this mess that has just happened in Saulsville, which I definitely do call a mess because I think we cannot call it anything else. I
mean, children executed in their sleep. There is no doubt these gunmen would have at least been able to identify the 3-year-old as a toddler. Yeah. It also speaks... What does that tell us about the society? I mean, quite apart from children being asleep with, liquor being sold in the early hours of a weekend morning, to execute a 3-year-old?
It's shocking, and I think I'm just catching you as you're speaking because the shock is what we are also experiencing, and we continue just to not be able to put our heads around this, to say, what have we become as a society? Have we normalized these things to the point where we have come to a place where we are actually executing children, and it does not make sense. But the other thing, Bongani, is these illicit taverns, they seem to just be getting totally out of hand. And we need to help, and I'm glad that MMC Coetzee is saying that they're bringing together the interdepartments in the city. But we as the community as well, we need to also rise up and also be able to get on the bandwagon to deal with this problem.
Look, I mentioned to the MMC the demand for protection fees, the fact that if community members know where they are, certainly the police ought to know where they are, and yet these taverns continue to operate. Police say they've closed something like 12,000 nationwide since April, and of course, as soon as you close them, they reopen again. Often liquor is confiscated, but then it pops up again. Yes, the community needs to speak, but quite frankly, this is a law enforcement problem.
It definitely is a law enforcement problem. And we need to also just make our police stations be aware that just this morning I was made aware that in Shawela, they keep on reporting that these illicit taverns are
they
operating
know.
even
That's
outside
what I'm saying.
of the norm. They know.
So
Yes,
what must we
but
do to tell them what they already know,
we
that they're
must
not
rise
doing anything about it?
Mhm. What we are saying as SAAPA, Bongani, is through the True Cost of Alcohol campaign that we are currently running, communities must rise up. We must make the noise, because it seems like for as long as we are quiet, not banding together and not coming together and speaking out and saying that we will not allow this, they know where the establishments are. They know what the law says. And then it keeps on happening. So how do we stop it? We stop it by rising up as communities and making a lot of noise about it, as you are doing right now in the station. And let's see what happens.
But Nomcebo, that assumes that, I mean, these establishments, whether you and I like it or not, they are popular. People like the idea that there are no rules that are enforced. People go and buy liquor, in the dead of night, in the early hours of the morning. We see this in rural areas. We see this in informal settlements. We see this in townships. And of course, because, we're expecting the customers to go and report.
I would say what we need to do is go to enforcing the zoning laws that are preventing outlets near homes, schools, transport routes. That we know. But other people may not necessarily be aware that they should not be these establishments, even the licensed ones. They should not be in these places. We need to also review the licenses annually, because it starts with the legal ones, the ones that are licensed, when they start to operate outside of the legislation. And then the ones that then come and are illicit, then just join that. So we need to ensure that there's a review of the licenses and revoke those that repeatedly offend, because it's those that we know that they repeatedly offend. The ones that we're talking about, that MMC Coetzee was saying, they go and grab the alcohol, it goes back, you keep going back and forth. Why is it that we are not revoking those licenses? And then we've got the interdepartmental coordination that I'm quite glad to hear is happening, because it is absolutely necessary that we have all the different sectors of government working together and stop the silo work, that they go as one department. I'm glad that he's also talking about the Gauteng Liquor Board. Let the Gauteng Liquor Board come on board and let them teach. If there's training that is necessary, then the police need to be trained. And also maybe the communities as well, so that we also know what is it that is allowable and what is not allowable. And that is what the True Cost of Alcohol continuously is saying. Communities, let us take our power back. Let us realize that we do have something that we can do as communities.
Gotcha. Nomcebo Dlamini, appreciate your time. South African Alcohol Policy Alliance. I just want to perhaps say one thing. Yes, the cops look away. Yes, there's corruption and they take bribes. And perhaps you don't expect an assassin to have a conscience. Right? But when a gun is pointed at a sleeping 3-year-old and is fired nonetheless, mercilessly, at a sleeping 3-year-old, and those are the places we support and we buy from, because haunamthetho, haunamlao, it's okay. Questions have to be asked about who we are as a society.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions,
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.